Well, welcome everyone. My name is Norville Barrington. I'm the VP of Communications for the National Black MBA Association Metro New York chapter, NYBLACKMBA. We want to welcome you to the Business of Golf Part 2, where we're going to explore diversity from an economic aspect, supply diversity, and what does it mean for African Americans to get into golf. We're going to get into that with our special guest in a couple moments, which I'm going to introduce. The National Black MBA celebrating 50 years of excellence. As we celebrate our visionaries and the individuals who have paved the way for us, we welcome you to join our organization. We have 39 chapters, including the chapter that you're looking at, which is in the Metro New York area. We want to welcome you to not only this discussion, but many conversations that we're going to have going forward. The National Black MBA, want to welcome you in terms of membership. You can visit our website at nyblackmba.org. Today we are exploring the business of golf. And I want to also thank Kelly Pierre, who is actually on this call today. If you missed last week's episode of Business of Golf, we explored the fundamentals and some of the origins of golf. So Kelly Pierre of All Access Golf, I want to thank you very much for a great conversation last week. If you missed that episode, you can visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/NYBLACKMBA. Today we have someone who, if I could accomplish 30% of what he has done, or maybe even 20% of what he has done in his career, I would be happy. And I say that with all respect and admiration for this gentleman who I'm going to introduce, James Beatty, who is the president of NCS International. He's had a national consulting firm and which is focused on economic development in Omaha, Nebraska since 1984. His consulting services has worked over and focused over 300 projects, covering about $3 billion in capital, especially investment capital, which covers about 30,000 jobs. And this is within a 30-year career. This includes specializations in call centers, customer service, share services, back operations, manufacturing, CPG, you name it, this gentleman has done it. One key thing I want to highlight here is the economic impact that he has had in terms of the organizations that he has been a part of. Some of the organizations, and I'll just kind of name a few, which is he's been recognized by the Aspen Institute, the National Congress of Community and Development. He's also been recognized for the National Government Association and National Rural Development Council. He's been featured in many magazines, including executive writer of the African American Golf Digest. Some of the magazines he's been a part of in terms of been featured in as an excellent journalist, which is Ebony, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. He's worked in many Fortune 500 companies, including AT&T, wow, so much, Norville Bell. He actually has been inducted into the Nebraska Junior Chamber of Commerce, which is the Hall of Fame. He has been a past chairman of the Omaha Jays and a former board member, the executive member of the Omaha Chamber of Commerce. He served 2 terms, and I say this respectfully because I want you to understand who we have on the line here. He has served 2 terms as a board member of the YMCA in Chicago, the National Board of Directors in Chicago. He's also served as the former chairman of the Urban League of Nebraska, chairman of the Omaha-Durham Western Heritage Museum. The list goes on and on. The vice chair of the Omaha Metropolitan Transit Authority, and also the vice chair of the Nebraska Economic Development Authority as well. Again, he is executive writer at African American Golf Digest. Without further ado, I want to introduce James Beatty. How are you doing today?
Good evening. I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Hope everyone out there is doing well too.
Well, we're going to get into our conversation now. We understand that golf is a $84 billion industry, but we also understand that you just didn't just jump into this. So just kind of walk us through the highlights of your career and how did you end up in the golf industry?
Well, as you noted, I've been involved in the economic development industry for a number of years. And as a part of that, you get introduced to many other facets of life. And one of those, obviously, is golf, has been golf. I've been invited, or I receive invitations from a lot of communities, countries, nations to come and see their area. And fortunately for me, most of them have included spending some time on the golf course. So whether I was ready for it or not, I needed to get ready for it some years ago, and I did. I was fortunate enough to meet a young man here in Nebraska, Mr. Steve Hogan. He's deceased now. He was a Black PGA professional, and he introduced me in a formal way to the game and got me hooked. And I think there's many of the listeners out there that will tell you that once they get introduced to the game, it's easy to get hooked on it. And I'd have to say I'm hooked on it, and I enjoy it. But because I'm a child of the 60s and the 70s, you always want to give back. That was what we were taught. You want to give back and make it better for those coming behind us. And so that's a part of what my personal philosophy is as it relates to golf as well, too. So that's what I'm attempting to do.
So let's walk now, before you were introduced to golf, let's talk about your upbringing. What were your thoughts growing up and other sports that were going around you at that time? And what was your thought about golf at that specific time?
Sure. Okay. I was born and raised in Chicago. I'm a native Chicagoan on the west side, from the west side of Chicago. And the sports that I was familiar with was primarily baseball, basketball, which I played both of those. Golf was, not, of course, football, Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, White Sox, all that good stuff. So you were aware of these sports and involved in them. And golf just was something that I saw occasionally on TV and really had no particular interest in. And in fact, I would say that golf had very little interest for me because it appeared as though it really didn't take a whole lot of athletic ability to play the game. And so I was not drawn to it like we were drawn to basketball or football or baseball.
Interesting. So now you get introduced to golf. Where were you in your career? And let's walk through the journey of now you're introduced to golf. How did it align with your career at that particular time?
I went to work out of college. I went to a small school here in Nebraska it's now called Doane University. I went there on a track, athletic. I ran track and academic scholarship. I was a mathematics major. And so I went to work immediately upon graduation for the Bell system. At that time, the Bell system, which many of the folks of your age are not familiar with it anymore, but
it's Verizon now, right?
And Verizon is a spinoff of that, yes. But I went to work for the phone company, put it that way. And I was in middle management. And it struck me there was a lot of meetings always being held at resorts, and resorts featured tennis and golf. Very little basketball at these places, and so I became familiar with it there, but I didn't play, and I began to notice that, man, if you're not involved in playing golf, then you're missing out on an opportunity to be with some of the senior executives and other folks, networking purposes, that I need to begin to appreciate and understand this game in some way, somehow get involved in it. So I was a mid-level manager, and I was invited actually down to Doral, and courtesy of AT&T, and had the opportunity to participate down there, and that started the process for me. That was the introduction, at least.
So now let's fast forward. So now you're introduced to golf.
Yes.
Now, how did it turn into you being part of so many organizations where now you're driving diversity? Let's walk through that journey.
Wow. I've been involved in a number of organizations, as you read off several of them. And again, this is a product of coming up in the 60s, that in order to make this society better, you have to get involved some way, somehow. And I did get involved in many cases in a leadership position. But with many of these organizations, there was always the aspect of you have to raise money. You have to go after the corporate dollar. But in many cases, it involved perhaps having a golf tournament, a fundraiser. I think as your chapter has identified, doing that as well too. So I got involved in it from that standpoint. That golf is actually a tremendous fundraising tool, and serves as a tremendous networking opportunity as well too. So, so with that as a basis, many of the organizations that I was involved in, I did utilize golf from a fundraising standpoint to affect the finances of the organization, and to help spread the mission and purpose of that respective organization.
So now you're in the golf course. You're being part of various events. Mm-hmm. Let's paint a picture of the type of people who are at these events and who was maybe not at these events.
Well, you would certainly go after the individuals and the companies that could be sponsors. They could be a whole sponsor. They could be a title sponsor for your organization. And as a sponsor, they would send their representatives. There could be senior management folks coming out to the tournament. And so I began to see that one of the nice side benefits, if you will, is that you get to meet people. A golf tournament is going to take, if you're playing 18 holes, of course, it's going to take 4 to 6 hours from registration all the way to the awards banquet, and perhaps even longer, I should say. But you get to spend a lot of time and quality time. If you're in a foursome that a corporation has sponsored, you get to meet some of those folks. So you get to meet folks from a business standpoint that you might not normally had access to prior to that event. And so it became apparent to me that this is a significant networking opportunity that I and others should take advantage of. In terms of, since you all are MBAs and the audience is MBAs, I'll try to use numbers as much as possible. I'd say, but typically 80% of the participation in these tournaments were white, and obviously the other 20% being minority or Black. Many of these folks were in mid-management, senior management positions, and could make decisions that were of a financial nature, and in some cases, they could make hiring decisions. They could get behind your particular organization and, in fact, have some of their employees volunteer. So it had so many other benefits that accrued due to golf that it again, really manifested the point that this is a tremendous tool, business tool. It's not just a sport, it's a business tool.
So now as you talk about the business tool now, we're going to get into some of the economic drivers. We're going to talk about the golf industry. Right. Let's talk about some of the work that you are doing as executive writer on African American Golf Digest. Right. What are some of the articles that you focus on, and what should our readers look for when they see your name pop up?
Two things. Here's the magazine. Hopefully your folks can see it. Here's the magazine. It's the African American Golfers Digest, published out of New York. DeBert Cook is the founder and publisher. The magazine itself is 17 years old, and I've been involved for about 15 years. And I point out the magazine because the first time I became aware of the magazine, it was actually handed out in what we call the goodie bag. Every golf tournament has a goodie bag that they give to golf. This was in the goodie bag. And when I picked it up and saw it, I could not believe that there was a magazine dedicated to African Americans. I got so excited about it that I actually called DeBert Cook and talked with her, and we talked about how I would like to become involved with her in her pursuit of bringing the good news of golf to African Americans. And so as a consequence of that, every golf tournament I do, and I would encourage your listeners, your subscribers to do likewise, I include the magazine as a part of the registration package. We talked about my writing and me presenting articles, which I have done that. I've written a number of articles for her, for the magazine over the years. But I would tell you that the one that has gotten the most attention was one I wrote last November, and it's called "We Are Not Golf Yet." And what I what I attempted to do in the article was simply use a few of golf's major organizations and look at that organization from a business standpoint. How many Black folks, how many African Americans are part of the board of that organization? How many are in senior management? And so I will tell you that I gave a lot of thought and prayer to this article. I did a lot of research, and it took me a while to write it. Because I wanted to get it proper, I wanted to get it right. I did not want it to be a piece that denigrated golf, but I wanted to use it as a piece to wake up people in the golf industry to say, look, we're here. We as African Americans are here. We are intelligent. We have skills. We have abilities. You should be aware of us. We're going to make you aware of us. We should be on your boards. We can be on your boards, and we should be in the executives, the C-suites of your organizations as well, too. And so with that, I got a lot of response to that, and wanted to make an impact in the golf industry. And I think this article went a long way in doing that.
So I think that's a good segue in terms of the golf industry, in terms of some of the economic areas in golf. You touched on something in reference to, you know, who's not part of golf in terms of the demographics. You kind of highlighted, you know, the opportunities that we do have here. So when it comes to golf, can you just walk us through the economic areas of golf that African Americans should be looking at?
Well, I use as a baseline for my data what other folks would use too. It's called We Are Golf, and We Are Golf and others use a report called Techonomy Report. And in it, it states that golf is direct golf economy expenditures are about $84.1 billion. However, the total golf impact on the United States is $192 billion. And these are numbers that are based on 2016 because they don't produce this report every year. So this is 2016. So I've got to believe in the 4 years since then, it's gone up. It employs almost 2 million people. In fact, 1 in every 75 jobs in the United States is somehow related to golf. And the wages and benefit that go with that, total wages and benefit, is about $59 billion. So anytime a number ends with B in it, it gets my attention, and I certainly will get the attention of many others as well too. So that's just at the surface. You can further break it down into other components, but that's a great start. 84 billion, 192 billion dollar impact on the economic output of the United States. This is not worldwide. This is just the United States.
Now we understand from a travel and leisure perspective. Let's start there. Travel and leisure. You mentioned that, you know, when you have events, you know, golf is a part of it. There's spas, there's things of that nature. So let's talk about what you've seen in your career and the impact that golf has had, and where African Americans can actually get involved in that specific area.
Well, one thing I'll point out is, as you pointed out, the travel and leisure, and I see that Ty DeLevelade is on the call, is on the webinar. Hello, Ty. DeBert Cook, and others sponsor golf trips literally around the world. But to put a number on it at this point, the golf tourism factor is about $20 billion, according to this particular report, and about 598,000 people employed in it. Myself and others take golf trips. You can go to the Masters, you can go to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, you can go overseas, you can go to the Dominican Republic, you can go play golf. And so golf has a direct impact, a direct impact on the travel and leisure industry in terms of, you know, you spend money. In fact, that's one of the slogans we talk about. We pay, we play, we count in this quite a bit. So it's significant, and people like DeBert Cook and Ty and others will gladly put together visits and trips for you as it relates to that. And our folks have been every place. Africa, I've played golf in Africa. I've played golf in England. I have not been to Ireland yet. Several have, but that's certainly on my bucket list, is to get that done. But you spend a lot of money. You can spend a lot of money on golf, and but it's well worth it. Let's assume that you can afford to do it, but it is definitely worthwhile to visit, because you also see countries and states and nations from a cultural standpoint as well. So while you're there for golf, you take in other attributes of that particular location as well.
Now, let's shift gears to supply diversity. Now, supply diversity from a corporation perspective is one of the focuses of our organization, both from a local and national level. We have many of our members that are executives in many companies that focus on supply diversity. Let's talk about supply diversity in pertains to golf. You have the PGA, you have many organizations that have a foothold and a stronghold on the industry of golf. Can you just touch on the importance of supply diversity and what we see currently today?
Absolutely. Of this $84 billion, this will simply be a guess or estimate on my part. I don't think we're enjoying much more than 2 or 3% of that, quite frankly, which is not enough. I serve on the We Are Golf Task Force, the Diversity Initiative Task Force, and I chair the Recreational Competitive Play Subcommittee. But previously, I served on the Supplier Diversity Subcommittee, and as a part of that, I was instrumental, along with others, in putting together a workshop for the golf industry as it related to supplier diversity. And so with that, we held it, I think it was 2018, it was held at the We Are Golf headquarters down in St. Augustine, Florida. And we had, I believe it was about 10 or 11 companies and organizations come down. What we want to do is signal to the golf industry, and the golf industry is made up of many, many associations, golf course owners, it goes on and on and on, is to get them knowledgeable that there are providers of services and products that you should be considering that can add to your bottom line. And we want to get that message out there. I would cite the PGA of America under the leadership of Sandy Cross. They have been doing quite a bit to get minority vendors and supplier diversity throughout the particular tournaments that they put on. But they're one association. We'd like to see the PGA, the LPGA, USGA. We'd like to see all of the associations take this as a very serious step. And I would point out to you that at least my experience has been that on their own accord, they may not do this without some involvement and help and assistance and guidance from folks like myself and others. Michael Cooper, who chairs the Diversity Task Force, this is one of the 4 major impacts that he's involved with. So there's many of us out there that we will go to their corporate headquarters and put on a seminar for them to show them how to do it. Many have told us that they want to do it, but they don't know how to do it. We want to show them how to do it. We want to help them identify the companies that they could be procuring services and products from, and we want to assist them in that regard. The PGA of America, as I mentioned with Sandy Cross, has also engaged a company headed by Gina Rizza to become involved with them on a regular basis. So there's a lot of effort being put forth. We'd like to see many, many, many more golf organizations, the big ones for sure, get involved in this. So it's kind of a twofold street. You can't talk about how great this game is and it's $84 billion and expect us to be excited about it when we don't see any dollars coming from it. And so we want to participate in it. We want to participate in it. This is not a charity program. This is not a welfare program. We can provide services just as well as any other companies can. And we want to show you how we can do it. And we want to be paid appropriately when we do it. It's pretty simple.
So now now from a corporate perspective in our organization, focused on pipeline opportunities and really strong relationships with Fortune 500 companies for career opportunities for about 50 years now. Now, we also understand that as the years have went on, whenever there's an economic downturn, the first thing that's always hit is supply diversity or diversity for careers. So, one, how receptive are these organizations for diversity? And two, what do we as the audience need to, in our respective organizations, need to do to help push the volume of opportunities for diversity in golf?
I would say, again, based on my experience, that many organizations may perceive it as a threat. They may feel very inadequate in terms of their knowledge of it. And so I think it takes groups such as the subcommittees that I serve on and others serve on, the New York chapter of the NBA, to put on workshops and offer these workshops to these companies at their premises. It can be very company specific. It can be a workshop just for Verizon. It can be a workshop just for a seminar, just for company ABC, American Express. It doesn't matter. I think we've got to put together a solid, bona fide program, a full day, full 2 days, whatever it might be, work with them, but put that to them and show them how to do it. I don't feel that people are necessarily against it, but I do feel that there's reluctance because they simply don't know how to do it, how to get it started, how to measure it, what to look at. I would say that one example would be the U.S. Tennis Association has done quite a bit in terms of providing a supplier diversity pipeline, and they'd be a good one to model. But I think it's folks, professionals like your organization, We Are Golf, and others to address this in a way that takes the fear out of it, provides the knowledge, and also provides a tracking mechanism as well too. That's very important. And the fact that we contribute to the bottom line, we contribute to their profitability. There's a mistaken assumption that if you buy from, if these corporations purchase from minority vendors, it may be a higher cost. That's absolutely not the case. That we can demonstrate, and we want to demonstrate, that we contribute to the profits of your company. We contribute to your bottom line. And so we simply want to have the opportunity to demonstrate that. That's what we're asking, and that's what we will continue to push for, as I and others are on this in this particular process.
Now, when it comes to corporations, and we talk about careers and opportunities, we have two philosophies, and no one is right. It's what's the best for you. There's either career opportunities, whether corporate opportunities, and going to the corporate track, or entrepreneurial activities. Right. Can you just touch on career opportunities within the golf industry and where you have seen success, either from organizations such as African American Golfers Digest, or being a part of maybe a PGA doing the corporate route? Where have you seen the success for African Americans when it comes to career opportunities?
I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'll give several examples. One is that through the PGA of America, there are 29,000 PGA professionals, folks that are employed in the golf industry. While there is not a agreed upon specific number, the range is that the African American membership in that is somewhere between 1% and 3%. That can be improved significantly. That is I think there's, whether you are an apprentice or you're full-fledged in it, there's almost 47 different levels combined that one can be involved in. And that's everything from repair of golf clubs to club management, golf club management, course superintendents. I talked with the Golf Course Superintendents of America last week. They told me that, their average, on the high end, their average wage is somewhere about $90,000. Their typical member is about $60,000 a year. Today, I talked with the Society of Golf Course Architects, their president, Jan, and they provide a number of opportunities as well, too. So you could be a club manager. You could handle the food and beverage aspect of it. Eventually, golfers eat and drink. So we can provide, and whether you're at a country club or city course, somebody's got to provide the food and beverage hospitality end of the spectrum. And so whether it's a superintendent, food and beverage, golf course engineer, there are a myriad of titles and occupations that are part of the entire golf industry that we should be aware of, and we should be making our kids, and in my case, as grandkids, aware of as well too, that there's tremendous opportunity. Social media. Golf, there's almost $600 million a year spent in golf media alone. And so there are internships that are out there that one should be made available, made aware of. The Association of Junior Golf Association, AJGA, they have many internships that deal with golf tournament management available that go begging, that they want people to participate in. Great opportunities. They are just one example. Most of these folks will have some type of job board. If you go to We Are Golf, there is a website, wearegolf.org, I believe it is. There's a job board there as well too. So we have to take part of the responsibility that we have to educate ourselves and pass that education on to others as well too.
One thing that's important that many of our members look at is the number of people who are in C-suite or executive level positions.
Right.
It's an opportunity for us to understand their path, understand where the organization may be or aspiring to be. Who are some people that on this call that, and even people that that have been trailblazing in this area? DeBerg Cook, I've had an opportunity to speak to her briefly, and she's a trailblazer in this area. But other people who that people don't even know about from a corporate perspective.
Well, certainly DeBerg Cook has got to be considered the ultimate trailblazer. It was her idea to put this type of magazine together. Michael Cooper, who actually works for OAI out of Tampa, he is chair of the Diversity Task Force. He has been a stalwart in putting together seminars as it relates to opportunities in the golf industry. Craig Kirby, who is the executive director of Golf, My Future, My Game out of Washington, D.C., has been working tirelessly for the past several years in the same venue. In fact, due to Craig, we now have an inroads with an organization called NAFEO, N-A-F-E-O, which is essentially the association that that the historically Black colleges and universities belong to, because we want to get the curriculum to reflect the opportunities from a career standpoint. To spread the word and encourage folks to go into the golf industry some way, somehow. There's a significant and powerful misnomer or miseducation that people only see Tiger Woods and see that as the only venue as to get into the golf industry, and that's just not the case. We certainly would welcome more folks that are of the Tiger Woods caliber, and Harold Varner III and Cameron Champ and others, but Joseph Bramlett and others, but there's many other opportunities. We need to be entrepreneurs. Ty DeLavalette, who I just mentioned, not only has a travel company, but Ty's involved in manufacturing and selling gloves now too. So that makes him a player, and it also allows him to employ people as well. So we all use golf gloves. Most of us, we should be giving Ty an opportunity to sell us golf gloves as well. So the opportunity is significant. there's many opportunities out there. We have to continue to educate ourselves. And then once we're educated, we've got to participate. So one other aspect of this, I would say, is volunteerism. There's many ways, whether you are a scratch handicapper or you're a high handicapper, doesn't matter. You can volunteer. You can be a volunteer in pro tournaments. You can volunteer your time for PGA tournaments, USGA tournaments, LPGA tournaments. That's how you expand your base. That's how you begin to understand who some of the key players are in your particular locale. And also, I would point out to the folks in the New York, New Jersey area, they should be making a trip to the USGA Museum and meeting some of the officials at the USGA as well too. So there's many opportunities. We cannot sit back and wait for the opportunities to come to us. We've got to go make the opportunities and go there in many cases.
So I know from a professional aspect, there's many organizations who have pipeline programs for young adults. Yes. And I would even say for children, young adults, from children to young adults. Right. What are some of the aspects that, We Are Golf and some of the diversity task force that you're a part of have been doing to enhance opportunities for young children to learn the game of golf?
Good point. And one of the things we've been doing through the efforts of Michael Cooper, Craig Kirby, and others is by putting always when we are aware of a job is to publicize that. That's on the We Are Golf website, and also internships that people can participate in. And I've met a number of interns over the years that have learned of these opportunities because of us, working with outfits such as the Buffalo Agency, the agency that deals with a lot of the major golf organizations in the U.S., publicizing those opportunities. And I would point out that there is actually one with the Society of Golf Course Architects right now that ages 17 and under. I think folk go as low as 3 years old, where you can actually submit a golf course design, a golf hole design. You go to the Society of Golf Course Architects website, and whether you have a 3-year-old or a 13-year-old, they can actually design a hole and send that in to the people at the Society of Golf Course Architects. We will be promoting that in our next Expo newsletter as well too. But that can be done today, especially given the fact that many people are home during the COVID-19 crisis. So I've been in seminars where people have talked about golf instruction starting as low as age 2. Okay, now I didn't pick up a club seriously till I was almost 40 years old. Can you imagine being introduced to this game at a younger age? Everybody does not have to be a member of a country club. I would contend that that's certainly helpful, but it's not a requirement. We have many community-based programs. In fact, on the same website, We Are Golf, if you go to the collaboration tab, and under that is the diversity initiatives, we list over 250 community organizations around the country that people can go to and participate in. And these are local organizations that provide clinics for juniors. They provide tournaments. It's networking, it's fellowship, and many of them provide scholarships as well too. But that's listed on the We Are Golf website as well. And I know that number because me and my committee spent a lot of time compiling that data. So to the best of our ability to compile it and distribute it, it's out there right now.
And I also want to just thank Dr. Michael Cooper, who did reach out. Look forward to connecting with you this week. And I'm not sure if you're on this call, but I will definitely get in contact with you. And thank you so much for your contributions, Dr. Michael Cooper. In regards, now you mentioned the access to playing golf. Now, when we look at it from a awareness perspective, how do we kind of look at it from a generational awareness opportunity? Most people, I'm part of the millennial generation. Our generation looks at golf as maybe an opportunity here, maybe opportunity there, but we want to travel. We want excursions. We are looking at different ways to explore and introduce new opportunities. But golf necessarily is not the first thing that comes to mind. So can you talk about the generational gap between African Americans and access to golf and actually playing golf?
Well, I guess you'd have to start with back in the 40s with folks like Joe Louis. Many people knew him as the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Well, what many people don't know is that he was actually a very avid and a pretty doggone good golfer himself. In fact, he was the first African American to play in a PGA sanctioned tournament. And so you move on from there. His generation, the generation after that, of course, as a result of the UGA, United Golf Association, there were black golf tournaments all around the country. And that's how many folks, black folks, got involved in golf, because in that generation, they were not allowed to play on the PGA Tour because of the Caucasian only clause, which takes us to 1961. That clause was eliminated. And you move on from that to people like Charlie Sifford, who was the first card-carrying member of the PGA, African-American card-carrying member of the PGA. Calvin Peete, who was for 10 years the straightest driving accuracy player on the PGA. And that included Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. Calvin Peete led, golf measures everything. How straight you are, how long you are, how many putts. And that's one of the things that they measure is driving accuracy. And Calvin Peete led that for, I believe it was 9 or 10 years. And so you saw that generation. I believe Calvin Peete won 12 or so tournaments during his time. I mentioned Charlie Sifford. Lee Elder was the first black to play in the Masters tournament. So folks of my generation, we followed them. Now, your generation, which would be similar to my son, if you will, you all are less patient, you're less tolerant, and that's a good thing. I say that in a positive way. You want it, and you want it now. I get it. I understand that. That comes from a generation, being able to stand on the shoulders of the generation before you. Well, now you have additional golf outlets, folks like Top Golf, where you can go play recreationally. You might not want to play 18 holes. You might not want to play 9 holes, but you can go to folks like Drive Shack, Big Shots Golf, Top Golf, which is the world leader in recreational golf. You have off-course facilities. But when it comes to, I think you mentioned travel, that can be so easily incorporated. And again, I go back and refer you to DeBerg, Cook, and Ty to use their respective organization. And then there's others out there, but these are the folks that I know that are experts in sending you anywhere in the world as it relates to golf. And you can incorporate golf and business very easily. And so your generation can be addressed very easily. You don't necessarily have to leave the country. There are many, in fact, New York, the MSA, New York is the #1 MSA when it comes to golf in America. If you can believe that, the #1 MSA in America when it comes to golf is the New York, New Jersey MSA. And so you have many opportunities to travel, whether it's a multi-day trip or a day trip, whatever it might be. How many do you need? Two is fine. 20 is good. 200 is real good. So the numbers are totally up to you and what your budget is. But it can be incorporated very easily and can be a combination of cultural as well as golf and business. And we need,
now,
golf needs your generation. The millennials, there's a millennial task force, and golf has acknowledged that it cannot continue to be white men only. And I say that in all respect. The white men in charge have come to the conclusion that it can't just be white men. It has to be others. It has to be women. It has to be millennials. And for doggone certain, it's got to be African Americans and other ethnic minorities.
Before we go to questions in the chat now, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat feature. We will get your questions on, so please use the chat feature. Let's talk about women before we go to questions.
Yes.
Now, the impact to African-American women in golf. Now, what we have seen from a corporate perspective is that our sisters have been doing leaps and bounds, great things in corporate America over the last 15 years. It's still not where it needs to be, but it is definitely a step in the right direction.
Right.
However, we are living in a male-dominant, white-dominant society. Can you just touch on the opportunities for African-American women and also opportunities for them to continue to accelerate their great work in the corporate world, but also translate it to opportunities within the golf industry as relates to opportunities or even just playing golf?
That takes me all over the map, and so I've got to touch on several factors here. We have African American women running some of the largest corporations in America, and so it is foolish and folly to think that that can't continue. That has to continue. I would say those that are in the C-suites in these respective organizations have to wield their power appropriately and conservatively, for sure. But you know, who sponsors golf tournaments? Major corporations. And so those that are in the C-suite or have to exert their influence to make it known that if we spend the corporate dollars for the corporation that I'm heading up or being a part of the executive team, we must do it in a way that is socially responsible. Now, with that, I have to digress a moment. In terms of playing golf, that's one aspect of it. But in terms of nurturing golf, that's a different aspect. But in terms of playing golf, we have to go back to Althea Gibson, who was a Wimbledon tennis champion before she started playing golf. Can you imagine her skill and ability level? She was actually a champion in tennis before she started playing. But so she was the first African-American golfer. And right after her in 1967 was Renee Powell, who I know Renee. Many of us know Renee and love Renee and the entire Powell family. They run the Clearview Golf Course in East Canton, Ohio. What a lot of people don't know is that Renee Powell was the captain of the Ohio University golf team and later became the captain of the Ohio State University golf team. That's among many other accolades that she has received. And so from those two, others have come forth. Currently on the LPGA, the most prominent African-American player is Mariah Stackhouse, who went to Stanford and was a national champion, part of the national champion team, but there are others. Golf is tough on the pro level because you have to have sponsors. And Mariah, and thank goodness for her parents developing her and spending the dollars, because golf can be expensive to do that. But there are others that are on the developmental tours that have come along and are coming along, but we need to support them. Many of those in your own chapter, in your MBA chapter and around the country, they can certainly support a developing professional player, male or female. There's also the Advocates Tour, which is a organization designed to get more minorities in golf, both professionally as well as in the careers. Golfers that are not Tiger Woods, that don't come out with the endorsements, they need financial backing. This can be a long-term good investment, but certainly it can be a very interesting one as well too. So individuals can play a role in the development and in the careers of developing golfers on the professional level. Now, again, it takes me back to the organizations. The USGA out of New Jersey, on their executive committee at one time was Sheila, many would know her as Sheila Johnson. You'll have to pardon me, I cannot recall her married name now, but she was the co-founder of BET. She operates some significant courses and resorts here in the United States. She was on the executive committee of the USGA years ago. But again, we have to go to where the opportunities are. The golf she found golf and golf found her, but there's many other Sheilas out there and people like her. that are parts of your chapters, parts of other organizations that need to become involved. There's rules officials, there's tournament officials, there's all kinds, there's a plethora of ways that we can be involved and need to do that. So we have a long ways to go, true enough, but we have got to begin to create our own destiny. We simply cannot wait for the invitation to come. Sometimes we have to take, if you will, kind of a reverse invitation. We've got to take it to them and say, we're ready and we want to participate and to take a page from your generation. We want to do it now. We want to do it now.
So we looked at diversity in golf from a career aspect, from a supply diversity opportunity. We talked about playing golf. We also talked about some of overall awareness between generations. We even tapped into women. What are some untapped areas that we haven't touched on? Things that are on the cusp or emerging trends that we should be looking at from a golf perspective for African Americans?
If you look at the golf trends, what's called off-course venues, in other words, you have your typical 9 or 18 hole course, or it could be larger than that, quite frankly, but there's off-course venues. So as an example, I would point out to a company called City Swing, which is founded by Tara Cash out of Washington, D.C., where she provides off-course or golf simulation. You can actually go to her facility and work on your swing. You can actually play different courses electronically there, if you will, simulated, but off-course venues. We need to get involved in companies like Big Shots Golf that are looking for franchise owners. They're similar to Top Golf, but Top Golf is not on, to the best of my knowledge, not offering franchises right now. But we need to be aware of the fact that Top Golf is a tremendous corporation, and we need to be deployed there as well too. So anyway, off-course venues is a big part of the industry and a huge growing part. So simulation facilities where you can have a storefront, if you will, but that can be done. You don't have to own a golf course. But by the same token, I would say golf course ownership is an opportunity. You've got to be well funded. And I would point out, this may not be the best example, but I think it was just this week that it was announced that Michael Jordan, everybody's been watching The Last Dance, but he did open Grove 23 this week, which is in Florida near Jupiter, 20 miles from Jupiter, Hobie, Florida. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he is the managing partner of that particular course, very private. Michael, if you're listening, I wouldn't mind coming. And in fact, Ty, would you join me if we went there? But that's a $20 million investment, and he's the managing partner of that. But it's a highly exclusive club, as you might guess. And then there are others out there. So you don't. So I want to be careful. You don't have to necessarily join country clubs to play golf, but that is an opportunity. You don't have to be a solo owner of a golf course. You can you can syndicate a deal. Guess what? Guess who we would need? The MBA types to help guide us through that process, right? And evaluate that business opportunity. So there you go, club in hand. There you go. There's opportunities there. So off-course venues, golf course ownership. We've talked about the careers, $84 billion, make room for us. We're coming.
So let's touch on that. So I have a question here, and it's really centered on COVID. In terms of opportunities for minority golf courses and ownership, the real estate market, we're trying to figure out from our real estate aspect. We have members that are deep into real estate. They're really trying to figure out exactly what does this mean for commercial real estate. Can you touch on opportunities through post-COVID in terms of opportunities for ownership of golf courses, minority golf courses?
Well, ownership of golf courses.
And will it even survive? And then will it even survive, even people who have current golf courses or even in the future?
Well, again, I would point you to the National Golf Course Owners Association of America, to their website, because on their website, they do list golf courses that are for sale. And so there would be routinely listings and availabilities that are there. If you or the organizations or a group of your friends see it as an opportunity, then you begin to look at the investment opportunity there. Are they expensive to run? Yes. I'm not qualified to tell you exactly how much. It varies by course. But I can tell you that due to the great involvement of the PGA program at Clemson University, they're working with the Black-owned golf course in West Virginia, who we all heard very passionate plea from in Orlando this past January that he was having certain challenges in making his golf course run. And Clemson University stepped right up to offer assistance. And they're doing that as we speak, along with University of Maryland Eastern Shore, who also has a PGA program, a PGA management program in place. And so, you know, like any business, it has its potential pitfalls. So you obviously have to be well funded, but the opportunities are there. I can't comment on the COVID-19 and what that impacts that's going to have on real estate. I'm not as smart as Warren Buffett, although he doesn't live far from me. I don't have that kind of knowledge, but I do know this. There's another way you can get into the golf world, and that is by buying stock in the companies that are providing golf equipment. And I'm not going to endorse one company over another, but I will tell you that I do buy stock in golf-related companies. And I would encourage your members and those that are viewing this to consider doing the same thing. Why? Because as a stockholder, guess what? You get a vote. Commensurate with how much stock you own, but you get a vote and you get some information that you might not normally get. So there's ways to do it. And I don't mean to make this sound simple, but there are ways to get into the golf industry. But off-course venues certainly is one of the more, I think, emerging opportunities that exist for us right now.
We're going to have maybe a couple more questions through the chat. Yep. We have a couple more minutes here. As we're looking through the chat, please feel free to use the chat feature. While we're waiting for those questions, what are 3 reasons? Give me 3 top reasons why African Americans should play golf.
Networking, certainly, for sure. Networking on a local basis, national basis, but networking. The business opportunities that may be directly attributable to golf, but it could be, golf may not be included, but by the fact that you met this person on the golf course and spent 4 or 5 hours with them, or whatever the case might be, it may lead to other business opportunities as well too. Be that as a supplier or perhaps as employment opportunities as well. And the third one that I would mention that I stated before is the volunteer opportunities. That's a good way to develop your leadership skills. That's a good way to, again, gain more knowledge. So in summary, networking, business opportunities, volunteering, and leadership skills are some reasons that I would add to that. There certainly may be more, but those are some.
So I know we have some people who join in different times and we have different chats. We're actually on Facebook Live as well. So in terms of just numbers, in terms of the amount of people who actually play golf, African Americans who play golf, and then how many professional African Americans are actually on the PGA Tour, just as a rough estimate, what are those numbers?
Pretty easy numbers. 23.8 million people play golf nationally. Of that, 24% are women. And about 19% of that 23 million are minorities. Totally, I think we represent about 3% of that 23.8 million. As far as the PGA Tour, and I'm talking about the top tour because they're feeder tours, but on the top tour, obviously Tiger Woods, Harold Varner III, Joseph Bramlett, Cameron Champ are on the PGA Tour. And on the LPGA, Mariah Stackhouse, Cheyenne Woods, and there have been others on the feeder tours as well too. So there's ample opportunity there, but again, it's going to take, we have to matriculate. Most of the folks you see on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, they also played in college. According to the NC2A statistics that I've looked at recently, I think African Americans represent somewhere around 2% of the total number of players. So, but you can't play college golf and play until you play high school golf, right? And in play high school golf, you've got to be in a juniors program. So programs like the AJGA, American Junior Golf Association, very important to get involved, if you have children, to get your children involved in that. And then there's also the elite competition, which has some costs associated with it. But if we want to make strides in terms of playing golf, we've got to invest the time and money, but we've got to go to the places where the opportunities are there as well, too. So it's not enough. I think there's almost 400 players on the PGA Tour and only 4 or 5 or 6 maybe that are African-American. Not enough, not enough.
Now, before we go, can you just touch on your event that you have in February? There's a huge event, February 2021 in Atlanta. Can you just touch on that event and the purpose and what's your goal in your expo?
So you've heard through our discussion, and by the way, we can go as long as you want. If you've got a time deadline, I respect that. But you heard a lot of issues brought forth in our discussion this evening, and that's been going on for years. And typically what the golf industry has been doing is putting together a task force to talk about it. And I'd have to say many people think that that's been slow to your generation and my generation. That's been slow and not effective. And so one of the ways we want to address it is I've been working with a number of people, Michael Cooper included, Craig Kirby, Clemmy Perry out of Tampa, Women of Color Golf, and we put together the first annual African American Golf Expo, which will be held February 21 through 23 in Atlanta. aagolfexpo.com is the website for you to get more information on. The mission is simple: promote the game, promote the business, promote the industry, and the opportunities for African Americans in golf. And we want to certainly grow the game. We want to promote economic growth and diversity and inclusion in golf, in the C level, the board level, and all levels. We want to have African Americans included. This is for all people. People get afraid when you say African American, but it works the other way too. How many seminars have you attended where you've been one of the few Black folks there? We're simply turning those tables around and say, look, this is primarily in focus on our needs, but everybody is welcome. We want everybody to understand what the word is. We want to provide a friendly and welcoming environment for golf industry leaders. And just this morning, again, I got the commitment from Jan Beljan to participate. She's president of the Society of Golf Course Architects. She's already committed that she will be coming up and speaking about the careers for golf architecture in golf. And we certainly want to grow the game by featuring subject matter experts. We'll have 20 workshops in the 2 days. We'll have a networking session, and we'll actually have a tournament. And the last part will be from the net proceeds that we were able to generate, we will be handing out money to community-based groups. Again, to the best of my knowledge, on the PGA Tour, the LPGA, and the USGA, this is not a knock, this is just a recognition. I'm not aware of any any African-American cause that is supported by the PGA, LPGA, or USGA from a charity standpoint. And I would point out, last year, the PGA generated almost $190 million in charitable contributions, and through their lifetime history, almost $3 billion. I've not seen where one of those events has benefited the United Negro College Fund or HBCUs. So there are opportunities. PGA Tour, if you're listening, we'd like to talk to you about opportunities where you can add one more event or several more events that would support sickle cell anemia, whatever it might be. There are opportunities out there. There's enough money out here, according to our president, to generate significant opportunities that will affect the lives and livelihood of Black folks. And we make no apologies for that, but we invite everybody to the table. It's a big party and everybody can come.
Well, James, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure each of our viewers have learned a lot. For those of you on Zoom and many of you who are on Facebook, we thank you so much for viewing today's Business of Golf. There is more to come from the business of sports series generally. And we're going to also go back to the business of golf. So you're going to hear more from us. James, I want to thank you personally. Let's talk about Golf Journal. Go ahead.
Can I plug this real quick? This is from the USGA.
Absolutely.
From the United States Golf Association. This is the magazine that they put out. In this particular issue, Don Cheadle, who has been selected as the USGA Golf Ambassador. There's a tremendous article about him in there. He happens to be a 7.6 handicap, so watch your money if you do play with him. And he did grow up in part in Nebraska, but primarily in Kansas City. But I also want to say that when we haven't announced on our website, aagolfexpo.com, our registration yet, but it will include membership in the USGA. So when you pay your money to come to the tournament, to the expo, portion of those dollars will go toward your membership in the USGA. So we're trying to include any and everybody in this, but we want to show we're working with all of the major associations and organizations in this process. And I want to thank you for having me, and hope to be able to play around with you soon, whether it's in New York or you can come to Nebraska.
Well, I thank you again, James, for this opportunity to learn more about golf, but more about you and your passion and how your passion is transforming lives across this nation through golf. We want to thank DeBert Cook from African American Golfers Digest, Kelly Pierre from All Access Golf. My name is Norville Barrington on behalf of the National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. We want to thank you very much for viewing this special edition of the Business of Golf, Part 2, Economic Diversity and Opportunities. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can visit our website at www.nyblackmba.org. We look forward to connecting you very soon. And thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. And thank you again, James, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with you. We will be in contact very soon in this step. We will see you in Atlanta. So more to come for those individuals who are on this call and on Facebook. We will send you some detailed information in the days and weeks to come of various events that we're going to have, especially this Golf Expo, which is coming out February 2021 in Atlanta, Georgia.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And James, I'll give you the last word. James, I'll give you the last word.
Listen, if anybody out there has a company that you want to get involved with in the golf world, send it to my email, jbeatty138@aol.com. I'm ancient that I use AOL, but the 138 is because I'd like to shoot 69-69. I believe that adds up to 138 in a 2-day tournament. jbeatty138@aol.com. Shoot me your information. Norville, thank you so much. My best to you. Stay safe and best of success. May all your endeavors be very profitable, my friend.
I thank you very much. And on behalf of National Black MBA Metro New York chapter, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for tuning in.